we are a little bit behind time, but we have a very important speaker before we go to lunch, which is the already quoted Johannes Walter, who is the Vice President of Area Management, Home Markets, and Global B2B Servicing Lufthansa Group. I know just saying his title takes all his time, I know that. But he is a good friend of LCC and is responsible from October 1, 23 for sales in the Lufthansa Group Home Markets. Oh.
Let me pull that off stage.
That's very good. Thank you. You get another job there. He started his career also around 25 years ago in Austrian Airlines in Germany, and then has been around, stationed both Italy, France, Sweden, and Austria, and really working on incoming tourist domestic markets. So you also understand how the geopolitical effects has. He then took responsibility for the digital air retailing partnerships of Lufthansa Group with groups like Google and Skyscanner and Expedia. Boo, 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 boo. Yeah, sorry, we're just booing but he will tell you much more of that. But he is a good friend of ours, and he's been here before, and we look very forward to hearing the comments from Johannes Walter from Lufthansa.
All right. Hello, everybody. It's fantastic to see so many familiar faces out there, and some people actually get paid to be on stage, and others have to pay. So that's as a quick as a quick pre-advice here. First of all, I'm very happy that you are here and that I have the opportunity to speak. So thank you, Markus. Thank you, Heiko, for having me. What I'm happy with, if you take away, and I'm very happy that the message has actually been repeating throughout the day after my short speech, is first of all, yes, there is an impact of what's happening around us, and it's quite heavy, it's quite significant, we have to adjust, but the good news is we can adjust, and we can really be resilient and make an impact and make a difference, and you guys can make a difference, and I think that's the most important thing of all. So I want to break down a little bit of what's happening into a couple of charts. So just what you see here is impacting all of the EU carriers. So basically it's the trajectory towards Asia, how we need to fly now, because there's a lot of airspaces that are actually closed for political reasons, for security reasons. I didn't scroll down the map because it doesn't get a lot better. There are countries like Sudan and so on further down. So if you want to fly to places like Mauritius, it's very hard. So there's actually one country that we fly across, it's Azerbaijan, where this small, if you look at flight radar 24 or something, you can see all these planes passing through there. So we really have to adjust from an operational perspective, because there's literally very little space. And I think it's important, especially that Europe understands that we have to stand up and we have to make sure. I mean, there's one thing Trump said is he's thinking about having Chinese carriers who overfly Russian airspace not enter the US airspace either. So I think it's important to at least make sure that there's an equal playing field out there for us Europeans if we look at topics like that. To other places, it takes us 2 hours longer. So that's just one example. And that is a lot of cost and a lot of annoyance for our joint guests. I think that's also clear. And when we were chatting with Julius last night, we were sitting there a little bit like kids looking at our iPhones and wondering whether there's a new development in the US around those 40 airports that are now currently impacted, indeed, domestic flights mainly. And what it means for us strategically is we're very heavily dependent and focused on the US, on the North Atlantic traffic. But as our new aircraft are coming in, we are going to diversify. So we are learning from the geopolitical situation. So we are looking at new destinations, Southeast Asia, the Indian subcontinent, because we're very aware that we cannot manage too much insecurity. So on my mobile, I get push notifications every time there is some sort of flight irregularity. Guess how many messages about different airports I got just the last 5 days on drone sightings? Just in Europe. 5? Absolutely, 5. So you did the counting. So 5 different European airports were closed for some time, and we had to deviate flights just in the last 5 days. But on the other hand, I was in one of my regions in Germany last week to visit, and I saw one company really going up a lot in terms of travel spend with us. Guess what they produce? Anti-drone defense mechanisms, right? So wherever there is a risk, there is also an opportunity, and I think that is also very important to embrace. I'll keep that one, the next one, short. do I need to point somewhere special? Yes. Because it doesn't affect everybody in the room, but for Germany as a very decentral economy with an economic tissue that is made up of small and medium-sized companies, it is absolutely crucial that these companies can visit their customers, can visit their suppliers, and can really get out there. And what the government has been doing so far has been putting a lot of burden upon everybody operating into Europe. I mean, just imagine yourselves as an owner of a travel agency, and you've got one piece of cost that is government introduced, increasing since the pandemic, 2019, by 123%. It's unbearable. You would probably think whether you would still do that part of the business. And just to give you an example, for domestic flights, these government-imposed costs account for 30% of all our costs. Right? So it's a really heavy impact. And if you take an O&D, like for example, Prague to Barcelona versus Leipzig to Barcelona, that cost is 8 times less out of the Czech Republic. Right? So it's crazy. Yeah? There's a complete misallocation, but hopefully, and that's really what we're hoping, and we're lobbying together also with you guys, hopefully there's a change in the thinking, but it's crucial for economy, for inbound, outbound tourism, that we can have a strong foundation and fair level playing field. That's all we're asking for, not more. And you can see on a European level, it's not a lot better. You can see that's a 20-year forecast. We can't really predict tomorrow, so probably we can't predict 20 years, but that's industry data. And what you can see is growth in Europe is the lowest all over, right? Africa is booming, APAC is booming. Europe is being held back. It's being held back by rising location costs, by regulation. Sustainability, super relevant topic for all of us. For me, working in the airline business, started off at Greenpeace, by the way, just as a little bit of context. So it was also important when I was young, and it is important today, but it needs to be fair, right? I brought my bottle because I don't know why, but I got an Istanbul bottle, so the beautiful city of Istanbul. If you have to fuel 2% of SAF today within the European Union of sustainable aviation fuel, the legislation says you have to fuel it until the next airport. So if you fly via Istanbul to Bangkok, you have to fuel it only to Istanbul. If you fly from Vienna to Bangkok, we have to fuel it all the way. That's just not fair, right? So we're all in for supporting sustainability and the environment, but we're not in for unfair non-level playing fields. I think that's a key message here, and that's impacting us as we go. We try to create opportunities out of that, and what needs to happen in Europe very clearly, also if you compare it, especially to the US, is consolidation, right? So the market is consolidating, so we're very happy to welcome ITA Airways to the Lufthansa Group family. Probably our friends at Air France KLM and also the Turkish Airlines colleagues with the other carriers up there feel the same, but we need to be stronger as Europeans in order to be more embraced and more resilient against all the challenges that Joris has mentioned before. All right, but there's also a piece of good news. Actually, there's quite a few pieces of good news in all of this. And on the left-hand side, you can see that travel demand has been super resilient. So 1 in every 4 euros spent, consumer spending, so 1 in 4 is spent on travel. Travel remains super important for everybody, and I believe that the new generations are already contributing to that. No? We heard it all morning, right? So it's very important. 3 percentage points up compared to pre-pandemic levels, right? So our industry per se is growing. And yes, I mentioned it before, we need to diversify. There are markets that are really doubling up their outbound tourism, for example. No? Southeast Asia is up there on the chart. So I think there are clearly opportunities. And what we also learned, and that's I think also important to adjust to the segments and to the reasons for traveling, is that the leisure demand by 2040 is bound to triple. Yeah? So big growth foreseen. But we still have a constrained supply. Yeah? We have huge troubles with our aircraft manufacturers, both aircraft and Boeing, to deliver aircraft on time. As Lufthansa Group, we've got 42 aircraft on order that should have been here already by now, and that haven't come in time, also due to a lot of these supply chain topics that have been facing the industry. But the good news, and I'll get to that in a second, is they're starting to come in now. So there's a lot of opportunities out there as we move ahead. These aircraft are coming in. We are partially insourcing. We've insourced the handling in Munich in order to be better capable to plan for staffing long term, because it took us, and I'll show you the numbers after, but it took us way too long after the pandemic to ramp up again our workforce, especially in Germany. Super difficult to find the right people. All right, so making the bridge to Lufthansa Group. So I start with the operations. It shouldn't be something that we should focus upon as an airline, but in this geopolitical context, with the difficult legislation, with the difficulty to ramp up the workforce, we had a very, for our terms, unstable operations for the last 3 summers. And we're super proud that this summer, including Q3, it's not on the chart here, but the punctuality has even further improved. The regularity of our flights, so meaning flights that were scheduled 3 months before departure, actually leaving as planned, has been increased now to 99%, which is not where we want to be. We want to be even higher, but we are back to very good performance in terms of operational stability, and it should help you and your travelers to make sure that their connections run smoothly at our hubs, and we're very proud of that. So just to give you a few numbers, we've reduced the missed baggage rate by 40% compared to last year. Yeah, the irregularity rate went down by 50%. So that's really big jumps in performance, and we're very happy to do that. So 131 million passengers, that's last year. So we're actually transporting more people every day than people who hold the Maltese citizenship, just to also give you a little bit of a comparison around the globe, yeah, just because we are on this beautiful island. And it's important to keep in mind that not only for beautiful islands, it's important to have a strong airline industry. And I brought this chart not to brag, but because you do hold Lufthansa name in your branding, I just want you to be proud. Proud of being part of a very big family, and with all these challenges that we face, still being the biggest airline group out there in Europe, and after the Americans, the biggest in the world. And that is measured in terms of the production we produce, so seats flown, distance multiplication. So I think that's good news, and it's important to be part of a very strong team. And we're trying to make life as easy as possible for you by actually having joint contracts, right, with all the Lufthansa Group hub carriers, having, for example, one single NDC API, if you look at the first bucket of group-wide commercial steering. And we will, and you will see that mid of December, have more Lufthansa Group brand presence around the globe. So there will be more news, especially if you're not in our home markets. We will start using, for example, the new lounge in New York and so on, we'll start using the Lufthansa Group more than we ever did before. Miles and more, we are also very proud being here at the West Inn, obviously, of our Bonvoy partnership. You saw it before. I also matched it on my app. It actually works. It also matches your status in case you have one. So that is great news. And we just want to create a loyalty ecosystem that is much broader than just frequent traveling, but being part actually of a community. All right, what we are, and now I'm focusing in 2 charts very briefly on Lufthansa as the airline, because that's where we have the biggest challenges, to be very honest, especially with the aircraft. So we're super happy that now all the Airbus A350s in Munich that were planned are flying now with the new Allegris product. And I think what is very, very important, we have already more than 1 million guests using Allegris. Our net promoter score, the NPS, has gone above 40, yeah, and customer satisfaction is in the high 70s. And the good news is you see a bit of a turning point in 26. So by the end of the year, if you read the chart, 50% of the fleet will basically already fly with the Allegris capacity, more or less. Yeah, don't nail me down on it, but that's the idea. Yeah, so it's a rapid growth now, a lot of aircraft coming in throughout this year, and that will really make a difference in guest experience for your guests. And also all the other aircraft will have all aisle access. That's what the AAA stands for. Yeah, and the journey basically continues. There's a lot more in the making, especially as we look ahead to 2026. FOX stands for Future Onboard Experience. So we are again combining the hardware with new routines on board, but also with digital experiences. So to give you an example, on business class, you will have a choice for the second meal, whether you want to, first of all, when you want to have it, but also which size you want to have. So we're trying to personalize more and more to make that experience even smoother. We'll have 3 meals on economy class as a choice instead of 2, so we're heavily investing just next year, 70 million. And of course, the seats are billions that we're taking into our hands to make sure we produce an offer that you can sell. And that brings me basically to a summary that has been mentioned many times. I think that you can call it selling the problem, you can call it selling the solution. In the end, a lot of problems out there require your expertise, your know-how, right? So I'm absolutely convinced, and I'm also saying this as the supervisory chair for LCCI, I am super convinced that travel agents with the right mindset, adapting quick, we learned that in the morning, have a right to play in this industry and in this market. We just have to be quick, leverage technology, and don't be shy. I think also that, I love the nuclear insurance, right? Don't be shy to sell ancillaries. My revenue managers would call this willingness to pay. I always call this happiness to pay. Happiness to pay, as Johannes there, right? So you guys, you know your customers, but also be bold enough to monetize on it. I think there's a lot of opportunity out there. We are investing billions in order to make offers available that you can then commercialize, but take that opportunity and use the technology available to do so in a more efficient way. So I think there's a lot out there. I'll try to leave it at that, and of course, we're very much looking forward to next year, which is the 100-year anniversary of the first Lufthansa Airlines. I heard in Bochum there's a big crane, but we have a very big crane on the plane as well. I really like the new livery. It's our anniversary livery. And of course, I wanted to thank you for being part of the journey. You probably didn't note, but up there's a little remark internal, so that means in company speak that these presentations are only required for family members, so you can see how much we actually appreciate having you and your businesses being part of the Lufthansa family. So thank you very much, first of all, for your partnership. Thank you much for your trust, and thank you for your business. We really, really appreciate that. And of course, at this stage, because I have to run, unfortunately, after lunch, a big thank you to the organizational team. I think it's a fantastic event today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. There was a lot to digest there, a lot of numbers, a lot of positivity, some things we have to think about. I especially, I've been coming to LCC conferences for 30 years in different capacities, and I think that you have brought a positive attitude to the cooperation and the partnership and the family membership between LCC and Lufthansa. It's not always been like that. There were Lufthansa people that were afraid to come up on the stage. What questions would they get? And said, "Don't ask me anything about commissions. Or don't ask." Yeah. So we appreciate that the frankness and the cooperation and the commitment to the partnership, because you need us and we need you. And I think that's the message. So again, thank you so much. Have a safe journey wherever you're going.
Thank you, John.
And we will look forward to our continued cooperation.
Yeah, bon appétit, everybody.
Thank you.